Episode 16. You're not supposed to survive. The phrase did not arrive as a threat. That was what unsettled Ethan most. It arrived as a conclusion. He realized this while standing in line at the grocery store, watching the digital clock above the register flicker from 6:42 to 6:43 without hesitation. The store felt normal. Bright lights, soft music, a child arguing over candy 2 aisles away. Life functioning. Yet Ethan felt out of place, like a detail the system had not yet corrected. "You're shaking?" Claire whispered beside him. Ethan nodded. "It's not fear. What is it?" "Recognition." They left the store and walked home along a route that had not changed yet. Ethan knew that mattered. Routes that remained intact were temporary privileges, not guarantees. The girl waited for them at the corner where the streetlight flickered inconsistently, a place just outside full coverage. "They have run the projections," she said without greeting. Ethan felt the pressure tighten immediately, sharp and focused. "Projections of what?" Claire asked. "Of who continues," the girl replied, "and who creates inefficiency." Ethan exhaled slowly. "And we do." "Yes," she said. "You do." That night, Ethan opened his notebook again. Not the one with names. Another. This one held rules. Not rules written down officially. Rules inferred from absence. From survival. Rule 1. The minute isolates but does not move. Rule 2. Observation invites correction. Rule 3. Memory without witnesses collapses. He stared at the page. Every rule existed because it had not yet been broken. That would change. At 3:07, the missing minute arrived. This time, Ethan did not feel pressure. He felt exclusion. The room narrowed but not around him. Around something else. As if the minute were passing by him instead of through him. He held his breath. Nothing spoke. Nothing asked. Nothing reacted. When the minute ended, Ethan felt cold spread through his chest. Time had not engaged. It had deprioritized. The phone vibrated late. Unknown number. Survival probability approaching 0. Ethan stared at the message. "For who?" He typed. A pause. Then, "For anomalies." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then we are working." The next day, the city changed tone. Not visibly. Behaviorally. Police presence increased around dense areas. Transit delays were announced without cause. Certain neighborhoods experienced rolling outages framed as maintenance. Containment without explanation. Claire noticed it first. "They're tightening access." "Yes," Ethan said. "They're testing tolerance." The girl joined them near the school gate. "Once survival becomes conditional," she said, "compliance becomes instinct." The pressure hovered nearby, listening closely. At school, the first test happened. A fire alarm sounded mid-lesson. Not blaring. Controlled. Students were guided out in orderly lines. Teachers counted heads carefully. Ethan felt the pressure spike. This was not a drill. Outside, staff redirected students away from a particular wing. "Maintenance issue," someone said. Ethan knew better. That wing bordered a gap. Claire whispered, "They're filtering." "Yes," Ethan replied. "Seeing who moves where." The girl added quietly, "And who hesitates." The pressure sharpened. Time was measuring. That afternoon, the first refusal occurred. A boy named Lucas refused to leave his classroom when instructed. He stood still, arms crossed, eyes steady. "I'm not moving," he said calmly. The room froze. Teachers exchanged looks. Security approached. Ethan watched from the hallway, heart hammering. The pressure surged violently. Lucas did not disappear. Instead, the lights flickered. A low hum filled the air. For half a second, the hallway felt unanchored. Then the alarm shut off. Staff retreated. No explanation was given. Lucas remained. Alive. Present. The girl found Ethan afterward, eyes wide. "That shouldn't have happened," she said. Ethan's pulse raced. "But it did." "Yes," she replied. "Because he didn't comply." The pressure hovered close, uncertain. Time had miscalculated. That night, Ethan could not sleep. He replayed the moment again and again. No removal, no correction, no disappearance, just resistance. At 3:07, the missing minute arrived again. This time, Ethan stepped forward. Not physically, mentally. He focused on the rule. The minute isolates but does not move. What if it moves? He whispered. The pressure slammed down hard. The room shuddered. For a fraction of a second, Ethan felt the minute shift sideways. Not forward, not backward, elsewhere. The sensation vanished instantly. Ethan collapsed onto the bed, gasping. The minute ended. 3:08. His phone vibrated violently. Unknown number. Rule violation detected. Ethan's hands shook as he typed. Then your rules aren't laws. A long pause followed. Longer than any before. Then, laws adapt. Ethan closed his eyes. So do people. The next morning, the city hesitated. Not everywhere. In one place, traffic lights at a single intersection froze for 30 seconds, then resumed out of sync. Pedestrians crossed safely, confused but unharmed. A minor glitch, except Ethan knew. The minute had moved. The girl met him at the rooftop before sunrise. Her voice was unsteady. You touched it. Ethan nodded. I think so. You shifted the minute, she said. That breaks the first rule. The pressure hovered close, intense and unstable. What happens now? Claire asked. The girl looked out over the city. Now it has to respond, she said. And it will not like how. By afternoon, the first directive appeared. A new citywide policy announced temporary restrictions on movement during certain times. Framed as safety. Framed as optimization. Time was adjusting its containment. Ethan felt a strange calm. This was confirmation. They were not supposed to survive. And yet, that evening, Ethan returned to his notebook. He wrote a new line beneath the rules. Rule 0, rules exist because someone obeys them. He underlined it twice. The pressure tightened sharply. Time had read it. The phone vibrated one last time that night. Unknown number. Survival is not authorized. Ethan typed back without hesitation. Then authorization is the problem. The pause that followed felt like the city holding its breath. Somewhere a rule was bending, and once bent it could break. The city reacted the way systems always do when they are challenged. It did not panic. It recalibrated. Ethan felt it before he saw it. A subtle tightening in the air, like pressure before a storm that did not intend to break. The morning moved forward with practiced calm, but everything underneath had shifted 1 degree out of alignment. Enough to matter. The first sign appeared on Ethan's phone. A notification from the city transit app informed him of a temporary service adjustment. Several routes were paused. Others were rerouted. The explanation was brief and reassuring. Operational efficiency upgrade. Ethan showed it to Claire. They're isolating movement, she said. Yes, Ethan replied. They are narrowing choices. The pressure behind his eyes pulsed faintly, steady and watchful. At school, the changes were subtle but deliberate. Certain hallways were closed without warning. Classes were reassigned to different rooms. Students were instructed to remain seated during transitions until further notice. No one explained why. Most people complied without question. Ethan noticed who did not. Lucas sat with his arms folded, unmoving, eyes fixed on the clock. When a teacher asked him to stand and follow instructions, he shook his head once. I'm fine where I am, he said calmly. The room held its breath. The pressure surged, then eased. Lucas remained, alive, unmoved. That moment rippled outward, not visibly, conceptually. Ethan felt it as a faint echo, like a shockwave traveling through rules that had never expected resistance to register. At lunch, a few students chose not to follow new seating arrangements. In the library, a girl continued reading when asked to relocate. Small refusals, quiet ones, nothing dramatic, but consistent. The pressure grew uneven. Time was no longer confident in its predictions. The girl met Ethan after school near the edge of a newly redirected street. Her expression was sharp, focused. They are testing limits, she said. So are we, Ethan replied. She nodded. But they have more resources. And we have something they don't, Ethan said. What? Claire asked. Ethan looked at the curved road that now guided traffic away from an empty space. We can choose to stay. The pressure tightened. That evening, Ethan reviewed the data again. Maps, policies, adjustments. Every restriction aligned with one goal. Reduce unpredictability. Not remove it entirely. Contain it. They don't want us gone yet, Claire said. No, Ethan replied. They want us quiet. The phone vibrated. Unknown number. Containment preferred to elimination. Ethan typed back. Because elimination causes noise. A pause. Then, because elimination requires justification. Ethan felt cold settle in his chest. At 3:07, the missing minute arrived. This time, Ethan felt it hesitate. Not long. Just enough. He closed his eyes and focused on the rule again. The minute isolates but does not move. He thought of the traffic light glitch. Of Lucas standing still. Of refusal rippling outward. What if isolation depends on agreement? He whispered. The pressure spiked violently. The room trembled. For a fraction of a second, Ethan felt the minute fracture. Not break. Split. The sensation vanished immediately. The minute ended. 3:08. Ethan gasped, heart racing. His phone vibrated before he could breathe properly. Unknown number. Instability increasing. Ethan typed with shaking hands. Good. The pause that followed was longer than any before. The next morning, the city stuttered. Not everywhere. Just enough to be noticed. A bus arrived early and late at the same time. A school bell rang twice, 1 second apart. A digital billboard displayed yesterday's date before correcting itself. Small errors. Human errors. Ethan watched people react. They laughed. They shrugged. They moved on. Errors were tolerated. Rules breaking was not. The girl met Ethan on the rooftop at dawn. Her face was pale but determined. You fractured it, she said. I didn't mean to, Ethan replied. That doesn't matter, she said. You proved it can be done. The pressure hovered close, unstable and alert. What does that change? Claire asked. The girl looked at them both. It means survival is no longer passive, she said. It has to be chosen. By afternoon, the city issued another update. A new advisory restricted gatherings during certain time windows. Not a ban, a recommendation. Compliance was framed as cooperation. Ethan recognized the shift immediately. They were asking, not forcing. Yet, the pressure thinned, stretching itself across probabilities. That evening, Ethan stood at the edge of a gap with the girl. The empty space felt heavier than before. Why haven't they removed this yet? Ethan asked. Because someone still remembers, she replied. Who? She looked at him. You. The pressure surged sharply. At 3:07, the missing minute arrived again. This time, Ethan did something reckless. He stepped into the gap. Not physically, mentally. He imagined standing in the empty space where houses had once been. He pictured doors, windows, names. He held the image. The pressure slammed down hard. The air around him thickened. For one heartbeat, Ethan felt the city hesitate. Then the minute ended. 3:08. Ethan staggered but did not fall. The gap remained. But it felt different. Unfinished. The phone vibrated violently. Unknown number. Unauthorized persistence detected. Ethan typed back calmly. Persistence is memory. A long pause followed. Then, memory exceeds tolerance. Ethan smiled faintly. So does resistance. The girl watched him closely. You should not have done that alone, she said. I know, Ethan replied. But now we know. Know what? Claire asked. That the minute can be challenged from inside, Ethan said. The pressure hovered close, tense and calculating. That night, Ethan returned to his notebook. He crossed out Rule 1. The minute isolates but does not move. Beneath it, he wrote, Rule 1 is false. The pressure spiked so hard the lights flickered. Time did not like deletions. The city slept restlessly. Ethan dreamed of clocks bending, not breaking, warping around something they could not measure. He dreamed of streets reappearing incomplete, like memories trying to return. He woke before dawn with certainty in his chest. They were not supposed to survive. That was the assumption, and assumptions failed when confronted. At sunrise, the girl met Ethan one last time before school. Her voice was quiet but steady. "They will respond," she said. "Not with removal, with rules." Ethan nodded. "Then we break one." The pressure tightened sharply. Which one, it seemed to ask. Ethan looked at the city waking beneath them. "The first," he said. The phone vibrated. "Unknown number. Do not proceed." Ethan typed back without hesitation. "We already are." The pause that followed felt like the city holding its breath. Somewhere, deep inside the structure of time, a line was being crossed.